Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
With our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. We've exchanged our Jack Heath for a Tom Heath, so there's always at least one Heath on the podcast at any given time. Welcome back, Tom.
Oh, thank you very much. I might argue you've traded for the much less interesting Heath.
I think so too.
No.
I think I agree.
It's all right, Tom. You come with plus 50 attack, so
like plus 50?
You've got plus 50
Is that
attack.
canon? Is that a legit thing? Because that seems very min-maxed.
I mean, I probably had more sleep than my brother has had, sort of generally, him, having been a father for the past decade. So, yeah. If that gives me any sort of advantage. You can tell which one of us hasn't played D&D.
I know, right?
Because Adam went for plus 50.
50's way too high.
OP that would be. Holy shit.
It's just 50.
If you had a plus 50 modifier, you realize a nat 20 is like
perfect.
the best roll, right? Like it's a 20-sided die. So rolling a 70 hit, like crit or something would be insane.
I love the idea of plus 50, just like negative charisma, just a walking black hole of sociability. Nice. But just like, Hercules just like pushes you with his finger and you fly across the room. Like, I love it. That's a great idea.
I'm sorry to say the inflation of the economy also applies to your D&D stats. So what was a plus 7 is now a plus 50 because of the economy. And
right.
That was an economics joke.
So you're telling me inflation's good?
I don't know. Not if everyone else also increases at the same rate.
So
but
now
then that's just base level. That means we're all exactly where we were.
Exactly. But so plus 50 isn't a plus 50 anymore. It's a plus 50 is a plus.
Yeah, so then it's just,
20.
Isn't that good?
If everyone's super, then no one is.
Yeah, right? If the baseline is now we're all plus 50 strength, then nothing's changed and we're coasting along rather than going into a deep, dark cost of living crisis, or cosy lives, as the dictionary, one of the dictionaries, I think that was the word of the year.
All right, now that we've lost all our female listeners, let's talk about boy stuff.
Boy stuff.
Well,
I don't know. Where do you get your nails done?
Well, probably the same place as Ron DeSantis. Because now
he'll have a lot more time to get his nails done.
A lot more free time to get his nails done and pick out nice new pairs of heels because he has withdrawn from the Republican presidential race and, like a bitch, has immediately turned around and endorsed Donald Trump, the man who accused him of being a pedophile.
Yep. That's like, I never thought we'd top who was it who endorsed Trump? But
Marco
Trump
Rubio.
had also gone on the record to say his wife was hideous.
Mitch McConnell.
Ted Cruz?
No, Mitch McConnell.
Okay.
He definitely made fun of Mitch McConnell's wife for being Asian, but I don't know if it was because she was ugly.
I thought it was Ted Cruz, where he'd been
he made fun of Ted Cruz for his dad killing JFK.
Killing JFK, allegedly.
Not a thing that happened, to be clear.
Yeah. But yeah, just so all those sorts of things. So I think he's topped that. Ron DeSantis, he's topped that with the guy who called me a pedophile. Great dude. Dude. Love him. He should be president. The guy who called me a pedophile.
Yeah.
So Ron DeSantis, for those who are fresh out of the rock and have not listened to the show before, who don't listen to the news either, Ron DeSantis was perhaps the most likely challenger for the Republican candidacy.
I thought you were about to say the most likable GOP candidate, which is not the case. The man is a black hole of charisma.
I do just love that Adam just talked right through if you're fresh out of the rock.
Yep.
And just kept going.
I was just going to let him have it.
We couldn't jump in there.
You could be under a rock or you could be in a rock. It just depends on the shape of the rock.
Fresh out the rock. Anyway, so Ron DeSantis was the most likely presidential hopeful about a year ago in the polls, was beating Trump in Iowa, lost handily to Trump this time, 12 months later, actually, in Iowa. So Trump took away 51%, DeSantis took 20-something%, and Nikki Haley scooped up about 19%. And there's also, the contest in New Hampshire, which we're just about to talk about. But essentially, Ron DeSantis ran out of money, more or less. Several months ago, Nikki Haley sort of picked up the donor class, and so. And it was also a weird thing, the way the Ron DeSantis campaign was sort of structured. He was a uniquely unlikable candidate. And we've got some video here that we'll show from his concession speech, which will make that clear as to why that is. But also, they had this weird structure where they basically outsourced the running of their campaign to a super PAC, which is kind of unusual. So,
right, yeah, because the super PACs normally are just the cash.
You can't coordinate, right? So generally what happens is you'll have the campaign. Okay, that's the campaign in earnest. The super PAC is basically a vehicle because of the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, that said corporations are people and they can spend unlimited money and money is speech. That basically created this entity called the super PAC, a political action committee, and where you can donate unlimited, unaccountable money from any source anywhere, goes into this funding vehicle, and then a political candidate can do anything with it. Now, to be clear, the political candidate is not in charge of directing it. It's just an organization, a very nice guy
has dropped all this money,
has dropped $1 million into my account, Christian Porter style, and they're going to do whatever they want with it. And if it helps me, then so be it. The whole idea is that the campaign and the super PAC never coordinate and cooperate. But there's ways around that, right? So if you're the campaign, what they typically tend to do is they'll put out a bunch of B-roll footage on their website, which is public. And it's anyone can access that. And so the super PAC will take that money, take that video of the candidate just saying how good is America, and just saying a bunch of generic shit and going B-roll of them kissing babies. And then they can cut together an ad, which they then put out on behalf of the candidate, right? So it's kind of this arm's length type of thing where we're not with you, but you're helping us, but we're not coordinating. And this time around, basically the campaign's we're just going to be over here and everyone send your money directly to the super PAC and they're just going to run the campaign. They're going to do organized door knocking, volunteers, all that sort of stuff on behalf of the Ron DeSantis campaign, which is actually kind of not that developed of an organization. And right. I think for a better candidate, it might have worked because it kind of means you can take advantage of a bunch of dark money sloshing around in the system and do it in an unaccountable way. But I think Ron DeSantis was just so weapons grade douche chills unlikable that it just,
oh yeah. I saw someone describe, I thought this was the most apt, perfect description of Ron DeSantis, which was that he is Homelander without the superpowers.
That's a reference to The Boys, which I have not watched.
Yeah. Oh, right. He doesn't know quite how to smile like a person. He's all America, fuck yeah, but has zero charisma, and there's just nothing going on behind the eyes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description of Ron DeSantis. Yeah.
And see, Adam, I know you've watched The Boys. Don't you see, whenever you see Ron DeSantis, doing a town hall or something and doing a stage presentation, he just feels like he's Homelander, that he wants to be able just to say, just make me president, god damn it. Why are you making this so fucking hard? I don't know how to relate to people, but he can't use his laser eyes.
He kind of reminds me, whenever he does prepared speeches, it kind of reminds me of someone who's been to empathy coaching or how to do public speaking. And then he's I've got to hit these things. So he's doing all the things that you think
he did a Toastmasters course and just absolutely. Yeah, just went to the Rotary Club to learn debating and public speaking. And it's just holding in his index cards no more than 12 inches away from his face, reminding himself to make eye contact, smile, Ron, projects confidence.
He has 100% taken a how to smile course. Just
what's that online thing, the master course or whatever it is, those master classes. Yeah. He's watched a few of them on public speaking. Perhaps.
I'm Ron DeSantis and this is my zero res masterclass.
He absolutely gormless.
Absolutely gormless, guileless, charisma-free zone, Ron DeSantis. Anyway, so here's him resigning and kicking Nikki Haley on the way out the door.
Casey and I have traveled across the country to deliver a message of hope that decline is a choice and that we can, in fact, succeed again as a nation. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory.
Yeah, not only did Ron DeSantis not have a clear path to victory, he also did not have an unclear path to victory either. He was doing very badly.
He also didn't have the map to victory or even had packed his hiking shoes.
And you mean his hiking heels?
Oh, yes, of course. Got to make sure there's space for the heels. Boring, man.
I mean, I'm kind of annoyed that I don't know. I mean, you've got to have candidates that drop out along the way. Like, that's how the primary system works. But also, like, he was the best chance of not Trump, basically.
Yes, but I guess the scary thing about Ron DeSantis, until now, was that he was basically going to be Trump minus the sheer mountainous amount of
minus the legal cases. That was the argument he was making. It was Trump without the baggage. So it wasn't really an alternative to Trump, because a lot of Trump voters actually like Ron DeSantis as a second. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, yeah, he's kind of like Trump. I like him, but I like Trump more than the guy who is pretending to be Trump. Like, why would I vote for that? So, and that's why you'll notice in the New Hampshire primary, which occurred this week, Nikki Haley didn't pick up all of those DeSantis voters. Voters who would have gone to Ron DeSantis didn't go to Nikki Haley. Some of them went to Trump and some of them went to Haley, and some of them wrote in fucking just random fucking people who didn't belong there. Ryan Binkley got 315 votes, 0.1% of the electorate. I guess Ryan's family, that's it. And then people were writing in Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy. People have since pulled out of the race, and they were writing him in. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, why turn
Ron
up?
DeSantis got 0.7% of the vote.
Yeah.
Maybe they think it's like karaoke night. Like, you can just put someone else's name in there and then they have to run. Like,
play Freebird.
It has to be like, oh, no, I'll write Adam's name. Oh, he has to be president now.
Play Classical Gas. It's like the presidency does not...
Yes, the worst karaoke song.
Because it's instrumental.
It's an instrumental piece.
The idea, you can't just do requests on the presidency. That's not how it works.
You can't.
So
no matter how many people submit The Rock, you can't just make it happen.
So Donald Trump walked away fairly handily from the New Hampshire primary, which is meant to be the most liberal of the states that he's coming up against, the one that is the least friendly looking electorate for someone like Trump. So if Nikki Haley was going to win anywhere, it had to be New Hampshire, and she didn't do that. So Trump won with 54.3% of the vote. Nikki Haley with coming in second with 43.2%. So and the rest of the states look much more like Iowa than New Hampshire going forward. So Nikki Haley, her home state of South Carolina is next. She's expecting to absolutely get thumped.
Well, she's pretty confident about South
but you have
Carolina.
to say that. You have to project confident. You can't project being a fucking loser like Ron DeSantis.
Can you imagine that? It was like, okay, now we're going. Sorry, where are they going again? What's the next primary?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. To be like, all right, we're on our way to South Carolina, and we are going to get thumped, people. Like, that can't be your speech. It'd be like, we're going in, we're going to get thumped, and
lubing up for a real butt fucking. It's going to be terrible.
Hopefully, we can go in and not get thumped as much as we are planning to be thumped, but we're going to be thumped.
Boy, are we wasting a lot of donors' money.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so it's it's bad.
Bit of a shit show. But I guess the joke that I've seen everyone sort of throwing around, which I think is fantastic, is that Ron DeSantis's campaign slogan was "Never back down," and here he is promptly backing down, which is very funny.
Yeah, the name of the super PAC was Never Back Down, which then has backed down.
Fantastic.
If you're Trump, though, so you've got to, let's assume he gets the candidacy. He's got to pick
Trump? Sorry, I'm Trump?
You're Trump, yes. You're Trump.
I'm
so
killing
imagine.
myself.
Okay.
Cool.
Straight away. Straight away, killing myself.
Nice.
It wasn't one of the options, but if we take the American voting system as anything, you can pick your own options.
Killing myself.
So if you're Trump, who do you now pick? Who's the bigger suckhole that you can have as a VP? Do you want, what's his name, Vivek Ramaswamy, or do you want Ron DeSantis?
Yeah, suckhole is definitely not approved in the style guide for the language for this show. That was an Adam Doreen original there.
Yeah, is that the nomenclature for a vice president?
Well,
it might be, but
pretty close.
I guess that's what they have. They have to sit there and suck it up and.
So apparently, Tim Scott is in contention. Tim Scott, who many people...
Tim Scott?
Who is Tim Scott? Yeah, he's from South Carolina. He was in the presidential race. He pulled out a while ago. There's been a lot of like jokes that he's, obviously a grown man and isn't married. And so that sort of made people make the illusion that maybe he was gay. And not, like he's an evangelical Christian. So obviously that would not be like an acceptable thing to be. And now this week has announced that he's getting engaged to a human woman who is very much real. So, and Trump mentioned it.
I just looked him up. So I recognize Tim Scott now. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is, he's an African-American man. And so that could, from a demographics perspective, could help peel a couple of percentage points away from Biden and towards Trump in this key demographic being African-American men and women. So he's under consideration, but like no one knows yet.
But the thing is, like with those guys that have pulled out of the race, like obviously they're pulling out early and they're endorsing Trump. It is a strategic maneuver to get themselves into the next administration if that happens, right? Yeah. Like that's like if they were really keen on the presidency, they would fight it out. But I mean, I guess money is a thing, but
it's always been a race for second place.
It just seems like it's who can suck up the most, quite literally.
Because they're doing this weird thing where they're like trying to court Trump voters, but they're trying not to piss them off too much by like having a go at Trump. And so it's like if they'd spent the last year giving this guy an absolute bollocking for Jan 6th, you'd be looking at a very different electorate. If the entire Republican field spent the whole time dunking on Trump for a year, we'd have a very different situation on our hands, but they don't. The only one who was willing to really go to bat against Trump was Chris Christie. And obviously he, didn't get very far at all. So it's like, of course Trump is going to run away with the nomination. It's all but like decided at this point. If Nikki Haley couldn't win in New Hampshire, she's not going to be winning elsewhere. She's not going to be winning in Texas. She's not going to be, you know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen, right? So
do they do like California?
Yeah.
Like yes,
the California primary. Okay. Yeah.
They'll go through all the states, yeah.
Adam, that's where season 1 of 24 was set. And you don't remember that?
I honestly, Tom...
Following takes place between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. on the day of the California presidential primary. Events occur in real time.
Tom, the fact that you remember that and that is the reference that you would put to trigger my memory is... I love that about you. That's my favorite thing. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's amazing.
He speaks your language.
24?
I never watched 24. No.
Holy shit!
I like the concept of 24.
It'll blow your mind.
I feel like
fuck. Holy shit! I just assumed you'd watch 24 because you're Adam Doreen, guy who's definitely watched 24. Your energy.
If I had to describe to a sketch artist someone who definitely watched the show 24, he would draw you.
I mean, the plot will make no sense now because everyone has iPhones, so it won't work. But for 2001, worked really well.
We watched Charlie's Angels last night, and that was filmed in the year, or released, I think, in the year 2000. And let me tell you, it was a time.
Oh, yes.
It was. Films were different back then, let me tell you. The Matrix had just come out, and there was a lot of weird influences being thrown around.
It's weird to look back at your own childhood as like a period drama, like the way that we look at the 70s. It's like, The Deer Hunter was like a 70s film. It's like very of the 70s, right? And that's the way people are going to look at schlocky, like Crossroads by Britney Spears. You know what I mean? They're like, wow, what a weird genre film from the time. Like,
had that
what
recently.
Was High School Musical? Jesus.
Had that recently, even though did not like the movie, but when my partner and I watched Saltburn, it's set in 2006. So seeing 2006 as like a nostalgia period for the movie was interesting. I was just like, oh, this is a movie set like towards the end of high school for me. So yeah, it's like, movies that you see where it's like, if you watch The Breakfast Club fucking now or whatever, being like, oh, the 80s, you're like, oh, Saltburn's trying to do that for the mid 2000s. Very interesting. Anyway, terrible movie. Moving on to what we were going to be talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So
who wants to lead this one, Alf?
It's all, Trump's all but locked up the nomination. So speaking of politics, there we go. How's that for a segue?
Ooh.
Gotcha.
Nailed it.
So, Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister of Australia, and very sweaty boy, has announced that stage 3 tax cuts are going to be changed to the benefit of lower income earners. So for those who don't know, the stage 3 tax cuts were a no good, very bad idea from the Morrison. Was it from the Morrison government or was it Turnbull?
Yeah, I think so. It was announced in like 2018, I think, and they had. Was it only 3 stages? Is there a stage 4 that we haven't talked about? I thought it was maybe just the 3. This was the last.
I think
one.
It might have just been the 3.
Yeah, so they just had several rolling tax cuts to be implementing just to change the amount of tax people are paying depending on the brackets. And stage 3 has always been the most controversial, contentious one because it would essentially give a large tax cut to the
most wealthy people. Yeah.
So it's like, cool. And hey, in stage 3 is people who are earning more than $180K a year get $10,000 less in tax. And they waited for applause.
Where's the applause?
What? What do you mean? What about the poorer people?
What do you mean they hate us?
They're still going to be poor.
What do you mean the bread lines are revolting?
Yeah. So,
it was a pretty clever political maneuver because they sort of staggered it with, before the first 2 tranches were for lower income, middle income earners.
But those measures were temporary, whereas the stage 3 tax cuts would be permanent. So we got the low middle income tax offset, the LIMTO, which would give lower income earners $1,000 back a year. And that was for a couple of years. And then they got rid of that and they go, anyway, what we really wanted to do, and this is what we're going to keep, is we're going to make sure that people earning between $45,000 and $200,000 a year are in the same tax bracket. And that seems fair. And that's a good idea because we're a liberal government. And everyone went, okay. And the Labor government at the time went, okay, because they were trying to be a small target leading up to the election. And basically the Liberals have they've tried to have a bite of the apple on either side, right? They've said both that Labor needs to stop being irresponsible and reconsider the stage 3 tax cuts. And now that Labor has done that, they have criticized them for breaking a promise. So it's I don't know how you could square that circle and have the argument both ways, but there it is. So
yeah, and I think that, as I was saying, the clever thing about it is that those stage 3 tax, so when they legislated it, they weren't set to come in for 5 years. So they could push it through and no one would really notice or care because it's 5 years away and we're focused on the here and now. So now the here and now has come around. And look, for the last, I want to say 2 years, they have been asking the Labor people, particularly Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers,
what are you going to do about the stage 3 tax cuts? Whoa, are you going to break your promise? This is a broken promise.
Well,
and Anthony Albanese has repetitively said, our position has not changed. Even when inflation started to go up and, the budget was looking all over the place, they've said, well, we've got a structural deficit. Do we really need to be giving? Because this is the other thing with these tax cuts. They're worth $240 billion worth of revenue that's basically the government's giving up on.
Over X number of years, yeah.
Yeah, over X number of years. So, people have been going, well, if you want to fix the budget.
Yeah. If you're saying hey, there's not enough money in the banana stand, maybe you could change the stage 3 tax cuts and then there'd be more money.
Yeah. In order to plug the hole in the ship, have you looked at the large cannonball-sized hole in the hull of the ship? That might be a good place to start.
So allegedly what happened was over Christmas, Anthony, well, who knows how long they've been thinking about it for. But,
over Christmas, 3 ghosts visited Anthony Albanese and took him on a whirlwind adventure through time and space.
They did,
And he
yes.
decided, yeah, let's do it.
It's me, Peter Dutton, the ghost of Christmas future and also death.
Yes, the ghost of Christmas, please don't fucking touch our tax cuts, you fuck.
The ghost of Christmas not selling Australia Day merch at Woolies is actually fucking tyranny.
A hate crime.
So boycott Woolies. The ghost of Christmas future, Peter Dutton, making great economic decisions. Peace out.
The ghost of the Treasury was also involved, and they got a bunch of advice, and they consulted, and they've listened, they've learned, and they decided to implement the changes that we will now describe. So, I'll have a look at what are you loading up? Oh, this is this video. But basically, to summarize the changes really quickly, in terms of the budget, there is no difference. There's still the amount of money is still being taken out of the budget. There's still that much, savings or not savings, expenditure that's going to occur. They're just redistributing.
Spread it out.
wealth.
Yeah.
Spreading it out.
For TLDR, if you earn more than 150 grand a year, you're getting slightly less of a tax cut. If you earn less than 150 grand a year, you're getting a tax cut. So everyone's still getting a tax cut, still better than it was before, but it's just spread out amongst everyone rather than all of if you had to describe a tax cut, well, you're like, okay, guys, get this. You're getting a permanent tax cut to only the people who can absolutely afford not to have it. And people will be like, that's a terrible idea. What is it? How did I get into this room? Who are you? Why am I handcuffed to this table?
So they've reintroduced the 37% tax bracket, which was previously going to be gone. So that it just sort of keeps it a bit more sort of fair, I guess. The people who would be earning above, I think it's 150 to 200,000, whatever it is, something like that. They are getting about half as much. They would have got if you were earning $200,000, you would have had a $9,000 tax refund. Now you're getting a $4,000 tax refund. So you're not getting nothing. You're just getting less. But I guess the argument would be that you could afford it.
Yeah, what's amazing is that you still are paying less tax.
Yes.
We're all going to be paying less tax.
Yeah.
That's why it's smart. It's a pretty smart political move, right? Because no one can say oh, this is bullshit. Labor's giving us a tax increase. It's no, it's still a decrease. It's just less of a decrease than you thought it was, right? So no one can be really too mad about it. It's pretty clever how they've done it. And it needed to be done.
They're saying is that
it needed to happen.
That I think it's 1 in 6. So 1 in 6 people would get less back, but the other 5 people will be better off under this arrangement. So the gamble is, I guess, that for most voters, they will have a better time under this.
Here's the thing about winning people's votes is if you want to win in a democracy, you do more good things for more people. And if you do more good things for more people, then more people will vote for you. It's a pretty straightforward equation.
And some people have said, what about, of course, we've got cost of living, and this is what this is designed to address. Some people have said, well, what about inflation? And then the Treasury advice is that it's basically going to have it'll have a small, very small increase in inflation, but pretty much negligible in terms of the grand scheme of things, because a lot of the inflation is due to different other external factors.
It's the same
related to expenditure.
It's the same amount of money that's going out, so they'd already kind of accounted for it, right? It's just rather than it all sitting in one person's pocket to spend, it sits in a bunch of people's pockets to spend. But the thing that this week, I mean, the policy was announced. That they leaked it, they backgrounded it, then they announced it, and then they did the Treasury advice, and then Anthony Albanese did a speech at the National Press Club, and they sort of rolled it out very methodically. A whole week of coverage. That's what I like to see is the Labor government doing things that I like, and then just eating an entire news week, resulting in coverage of that thing. I was like, oh, it's like you guys woke up and then you're like, new year, new me, we're going to figure out how to govern.
But if you were, I don't know, earlier in the week, if you were listening to literally any of the reporting whether that be for right-wing media or even the ABC.
The ABC
it was think
astounding that the ABC came down on the side of like, well, Labor's broken promises. They posted something like that on the ABC Instagram, and all the comments were like, "Fam, this ain't it." Like, everyone wants the stage 3 tax cuts changed. Like, no one gives a fuck about a broken promise. That was a shit promise, and circumstances have changed. Like, no one gives a flying fuck.
It's literally the only thing that people have been able to state in the media, and as well as the conservative side of government as well, is that basically this is a lie. It's another Labor lie, and they'll just get shots of like Julia Gillard talking about the carbon tax and like mash it up against Anthony Albanese saying my word is my bond, and it's just become like this critical meltdown. Susan Ley from the Liberal Party has just she's just been doing I don't know where Peter Dutton's been, but I don't know. She seems to be the front person for this whole like response, and she's just been going stick at it.
I'm busy haunting various people's dreams as the ghost of Christmas future. Even ghouls need a break.
It is, it's been insane. And we'll listen to, we've got a video now, which is Jim Chalmers.
Can I just say,
destroyed.
This video made me incandescent with rage. I was sitting on the toilet when you sent me this, and I was just like, I was raging on the toilet to no one, alone, just screaming at my phone on the toilet, which I mean, that's what the listeners want, I guess. But
nothing quite like getting furious with your trousers down.
It's the best way to get furious. So here's Jim Chalmers displaying levels of Herculean patience.
Watch this yet. Be fresh for old Tom.
Yeah, it's a good time. So this is Jim Chalmers on ABC News talking about the stage 3 tax cut changes.
But for more people to help with the cost of living. We've come to a different view on these stage 3 tax cuts because we've found a much better way to provide more relief to more people who are under pressure. And the tax plan that the Prime Minister will outline today is better for Middle Australia. It's better for cost of living pressures. It's better for women and workforce participation. It's better for nurses and truckies and teachers. And it's better for the economy, as the Treasury advice that I will release today will show. And so our responsibility here, when there is a demonstrably better option available, is to take the right decisions for the right reasons, even if the politics are difficult.
Yeah, well, it's not better for more than 1 million Australians who are now going to have that tax cut that they were banking on, making plans on, halved.
Well, the important point here, Lisa, is that every taxpayer still gets a tax cut, including people on higher incomes. We're still lifting that threshold from $180,000 to $190,000, so that threshold will go up. People on higher incomes will still get a decent tax cut.
Yeah, but it's gone from a tax cut of around $9,000 to a tax cut of $4,500. So that's a substantial drop.
It's a substantial tax cut, Lisa. And when the full tables are released today, what people will see is that everybody who's paying tax and is working will get a tax cut. There'll still be decent tax cuts for people on more substantial incomes, but there's a bigger emphasis on Middle Australia. And the difference between this tax plan that we'll outline today and the one that it replaces is this tax plan, there are tax cuts for more people. There are bigger tax cuts for more people, and that is to recognise the substantial cost of living pressures that people are under.
Treasurer, we knew a lot of this when you were going into the 2022 election. We knew about the Ukrainian invasion. We knew about global economic instability. We knew about the pandemic. Your government was promising to follow through with these stage 3 tax cuts well after the election. So how do you now say that the economic situation has changed?
Well, first of all, you're right to point out that those are all of the things that have happened in the 5 years or so since Scott Morrison legislated the stage 3 tax cuts. I think most Australians would understand that these cost of living pressures have been sustained, they have been persistent, and it became increasingly clear to us over the course of the summer that there was a much more effective way for the same amount of money to provide the kind of cost of living relief that Middle Australia desperately needs and deserves. This is about aspiration. It's about people who work hard being able to provide for their loved ones and get ahead. And it recognises the economic conditions that we confront right now, which are defined by these cost of living pressures, which are putting people under the pump. We don't just acknowledge those pressures, we're doing something about it. The best way to do that is to rejig these stage 3 tax cuts so that everyone still gets a tax cut, but Middle Australia gets a bigger tax cut, more people get a bigger tax cut to deal with these cost of living pressures.
Well, you've delivered the opposition their advertising campaign for the next election. Lay down misère. Is the Prime Minister's word his bond?
Well, this is about people, not politics. And of course,
is the Prime Minister's word his bond?
Well, of course. You build trust by taking the right decisions for the right reasons, even when the politics are difficult. And the opposition, of course, will pay their usual mindless, nasty, negative politics. That's all that they do.
Why is
frankly.
it negative to...
Honestly, this woman drives me fucking nuts.
Just more like his composure was quite good.
Is the Prime Minister's word his bond?
Yeah, he kept that very measured. She was livid.
Is Lisa just fucking mad that she's not getting as big of a tax cut as she was hoping for? What am I going to do, Jim? Okay, I've got 3 beach houses to pay off. I was counting on that tax cut. Jim, you've got the treasurer of the fucking country on your program, and the level of your analysis is not, hey, let's explore the policy detail. What's the analysis? How is this going to affect this cohort of people? How's it going to affect that cohort of people? She didn't even mention the detail of the plan. There was no information there. It was literally just, is the Prime Minister's word his bond? How transparent, how selfish to be so fucking weird and greedy about your own tax cut on national television. Like, everyone else is on board with this, Lisa. I don't know what to tell you, mate.
Yeah, because I guess it's one thing, that the promises and speeches of politicians are sort of like journalism 101, right? Like, they're often a lot of the things that you're reporting on and talking about. So I get why it's the same as when, you tell journalists that they can't say something, and my God, you'll get wall-to-wall coverage all about that one particular thing, right? Because
but it's so
with what they do.
It's so disconnected, though.
Yeah. But my point is that, like, yeah, so that's why I can see why the journalists are all like hung up on. So wait. When you say stuff, you've just demonstrated here that we can't like take you at your word on.
But you said, you said that though. You promised. You pinky promised.
It's why the one interesting sort of point that she brought up there, I thought, was that, hey, all these things, the things you've just listed as the reason why the circumstances necessitate changing the stage 3 tax cuts. We knew those were a thing when you were running up to the election, so why was your policy you weren't going to change them and now it is? And then he gave the right answer of like, well, these more things occurred, right? So I was like, okay, that was a fair question, but just being like, just trying to, hitting him with the gotcha of being like, well, it's 50% less. I was like, yes, it is. Correct.
Correct. You've understood. Well done, Lisa.
Yep. Those are the maths.
Yeah.
It's almost like she was trying to do a David Spears, but without really the context,
the intelligence, or the information.
Spears.
Yeah.
Well, and it was clearly going.
She's
with
not
an
stupid, but yeah, there's an angle she was going for.
Yes.
The angle, and it was clear, and the angle was clear, and it was very biased.
Yes.
it was very self-serving.
Can you explain to me, Jimmy, why you're not a piece of shit? Like, that was the attitude. It was
Can you explain to
yourself
me why these tax cuts are very, very bad? Treasurer making bad decisions says what?
Yeah.
All that sort of shit.
It's so just like I admire journalists, like Lee Sales, even David Spears on occasion, where they get a bone and they go after it, trying to get an answer to a question. But it's generally backed up by facts, by research, by, hey, on the 17th, you said this, and now you've done this. Like, explain what's changed. Explain the difference. Yeah. I don't think it's so nonsensical to be like, but you said, and it's like, okay, but the world is completely different. Inflation has been an absolute pain in the ass. cost of living, like a meteorite has hit the economy for average everyday Australians. And we are responding to that by doing something that helps them. Like, if you can't recognize that, you're being deliberately obtuse. Like, you are choosing not to understand why this is happening, right? It's pretty obvious.
It's interesting you bring up Lee Sales, because it reminded me of her interview with then Treasurer Joe Hockey a decade ago, when they did their Age of Entitlement is Over budget that was all like, which was essentially kind of doing a bit of the opposite. That was quite geared towards just shitting on the poor people. And it was something that Joe Hockey had not, or at least the Liberal Party had not said that they were going to do. And I believe her opening question was, how does it feel that election promises don't matter? It was a particularly brutal question. But
see, that's
at least
funny.
in that instance, it is funny. But that it's because they didn't have those explanations that I feel Jim Chalmers just gave. And also it's I know I was being a bit obtuse in our, not obtuse, hyperbolic in our, our personal chat when we were talking about these things. But I was like, yeah, when the policy is let's kill all the puppies, and then you decide let's not kill all the puppies, instead we're not going to do that. Good. Like, when the thing you've changed it to is better, that's fine. Break those promises. But it was that, like, the Liberal Party back like 10 years ago were like, well, we're just going to make things worse for poorer people. It's like, yeah, that's bad. That's a bad promise to renege on.
No. We're going to keep on with the same shitty policy that we never really agreed with, that makes things worse because we said so. We have to. There's no ability in a democracy for a government to look at the current situation and respond accordingly. No. We must do everything exactly as we said in the lead up to an election. Otherwise, this is democracy made manifest. The threads are unfurling. The sky is falling. What will we do if we don't keep the stage 3 tax cuts? What's next?
It does, yeah. I think this whole, and I think, you could argue maybe the events of sort of 10, 20 years ago with the, whatever it was, 2010, around the whole carbon tax thing, and that whole political campaign and the way the Gillard-Rudd thing unfolded with, we're going to do an ETS, can't get an ETS through, we'll do a carbon tax. And the ways that and then the way that people reacted to that has poisoned the chalice, I think, of political discourse in Australia, because all anyone can think of is everything is reduced to.
I'm sorry, I don't buy the fact that it like goes back to Labor 2010 as though the invention of lying, like Ricky Gervais, the movie where he's the first guy who ever think about lying was Kevin Rudd in 2010. John Howard said, under my government, there'll never be a GST. He gets elected, political pressures change. He has to introduce a GST. Yeah. Like, we are adults. This is not the first time round the fucking rodeo. We understand politicians say things that they later need to go back on because we're fucking adults. We understand how it works. Like, it's this third grade reading level of like, no, you said, it's that gif of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the television going, I got him. He said a thing that was changed. I got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And then the banner comes down, mission accomplished. Like, the level of that is not journalism. There's no analysis there. You're just covering the horse race. What does it mean for the politics? What does it mean for the next election? At no point did they ever explain what the fucking change was and how it affects people's lives. It is a broken media environment that prioritizes gotcha journalism over fucking explaining anything.
And that's my point, in that I think that has been exacerbated since that period, because that was huge news back in the day. It was wall-to-wall coverage of that kind of shit. Like, John Howard, other politicians as well. Like, I know Paul Keating, used to say shit like that, and then he would have to renege it. And this is the thing, is that, the discourse has gotten to a point now where it's like no one is able to think more deeply about things, and I sort of disregard the Australian populace as being able to think more deeply about things as well.
Oh, but they broke a promise. Well, it's what everyone wants. So given that we're a democracy, shouldn't we do the thing that everyone wants? Like, isn't that literally the point of a democracy?
George, not everyone. Did you see the Daily Telegraph yesterday?
Well, sorry. Well, aside from the media elites over at the Daily Telegraph.
Yeah, this came across my feed, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're joking!" Where they decided to run, as you know, probably most places would. They'd be like, "Let's find a person who's negatively affected by this announcement and do our little puff piece on how this is these are the kind of bad things that happen." And they
Quick,
found a woman
to the angry cafe owners, quick.
No, they found a woman. This woman with her 2 kids are pictured, and it's funny because they have like the headline of the tax cuts, but then the photo of this woman and her a child who's maybe like 4 and a baby, and then over it says losers, that they're losers in this budget. I'm like, you frame that, just make it look like, look at these losers. But anyway. Their plight was that they're saying, we're now going to be getting, our household is getting $8,000 less than we were planning on getting per year. So my husband and I, with our combined income of $440,000 a year, getting $8,000 less than we were expecting. And we planned to use that money.
Only $0.4 every year.
Yeah.
Oh, think of the beach houses. How are they going to survive?
Yeah, I crunched the numbers. I was like, oh my god! So you're only going to get $300K this year after tax, rather than the $290K you got last tax year.
It is.
I'm sorry.
We as a country have completely broken our fucking brains, and the media is part of it. Okay, the idea that a family earning $400,000 a year can't see the benefit to someone earning $40,000 a year, 1/10 of what they make, getting some additional money back in their tax at your expense, the fact that people can't ethically, morally justify that, the fact that we as a country and as a populace are so absurdly, ridiculously self-centered that anything that comes at our expense and redounds to someone's benefit is a mortal wound, just goes to show the it's mind-boggling, the selfishness, the lack of community, the atomization and individualization of me above everyone else. And if I lose a single cent and someone else gets it, they can get fucked. Like, it is just a complete community breakdown that's been facilitated by the media and this kind of coverage over the last 30 years. Like, neoliberal economics made manifest.
Yeah, that person in the Daily Telegraph, I was just like, oh my God, you are complaining that you're going to get $10,000 more this year instead of 20.
Go fuck yourself.
Wow.
Go fuck yourself.
Yes, that's a 50% reduction like the ABC kept trying to drill home before, but it's still $10,000 more.
Yeah, you're still getting $10,000 more than you got last year. Exactly right.
I do wonder whether it's like, though, that the people, whether it's the population that are all thinking like that, or whether it's simply just Murdoch looking for
of course,
hit points and the coalition looking for hit points. Because the byline, who's the other Nationals? Angus Taylor.
Great job, Angus.
Just the crap and the sheer and they keep saying the same thing over and over again.
Manufactured consent.
That the election was won on a lie, which implies that somehow this was the main issue of the election, which it wasn't.
No.
It's just manufactured consent. It's
manufactured consent that we in the media are pushing a line that this is what we want you to think. And then we want you to think everyone else also thinks it as well. So it's the default opinion. Well, it's not the default opinion, because everyone fucking wants this. This is people have been asking and crying out about this every time the government spent money for the last 6 months. People are like, hey, do you want to get rid of the stage 3 tax cuts? That might help to pay for this. It has been an absolutely overwhelming response from the public to this. And it's going to help millions more Australians.
Yeah.
It is like the idea that the media can't get behind it just because I know there are a bunch of people earning $400K. Lisa was really telling on herself there when she was like, people are counting on that money. It's like, what you're saying, Lisa, is I was counting on that money. Because clearly you're a very highly paid ABC, anchor journalist that's obviously earning a shitload of money. Otherwise, this would not be as personally offensive to you as it is. But to go back to a previous point, I really do think that, when you see services like Youth Projects, right, which is a homelessness charity based in Melbourne CBD, reporting a 50% increase in presentations to their drop-in services, up from 3 months ago. You're talking 400 drop-ins up to 600 drop-ins in the space of a couple of months. It shows how interest rates, like the cost of living, it is directly harming everyday Australians' lives, and the government needs to do something about it. And for the media to turn around and be so personally affronted at any attempt to do that and focus only on the broken promise aspect and not on the thing which is actually impacting people's lives, which is like their ability to feed and clothe and house themselves.
It's the definition of insanity. It's
you are so disconnected from reality. Like, you actually don't fucking know what everyday Australians are going through right now. Like, the idea that we are taking marching orders from the media. And this is the ABC. This is meant to be the communist lefty ABC. Like, this is how much the neoliberal mind virus has infected even mainstream outlets. That's the only possible way of viewing the situation is through that lens. Like, it is a success. Like, what this tells me is that Rupert Murdoch and those like him have been completely successful in espousing their worldview, when even national broadcasters who are not at the whims of the vagaries of the market and needing to get clicks and don't have those same incentives are still just imbibing News Corp talking points and spitting them back out as if they were there. Like, that indicates to me a complete corruption of mainstream media. Not to be the mainstream media guy, but like, fucking hell, really? It's just so embarrassing. Aren't you embarrassed? Didn't you do a fucking Google before you hopped on this interview? What was the prep for this?
I think over the last 24 hours, some of the breathless reporting has calmed down a bit. I think a lot of this was people trying to get their hot takes in as quickly as they could.
And then they saw they were getting ratioed on Twitter and on their Facebook pages, where people are just like straight up laughing at them going, what is this dog shit take? They've kind of read the room and they go, oh, actually, it's not about broken promises. It was a smart political move. Please click.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like, it's like you can ask the broken promises question, or even the what do you say to those people who were counting on this money or whatever further up? But then you'd let the treasurer say well,
they're fine.
You're still getting less.
Exactly.
Fine. We're more concerned. They're still paying less tax. We're more concerned about
and why? And why is this?
And there's the answer. And then you've done your job as the journalist.
And why is this breathless reporting of broken promises? Why does it only ever occur when there's a Labor government? You notice it never fucking occurs to Scott Morrison or Peter Dutton whenever they break a promise. Well, didn't you guys promise not to be corrupt fuckheads? Well, obviously that was a broken promise. Didn't you promise to bring in an ICAC, an independent commission against corruption, and then not do that? Isn't that a broken promise? Why didn't you promise not to build a bunch of corrupt fucking car parks and sports rorts and line your mates' pockets? Didn't you promise to do that? Isn't that a broken promise? Like, it's just the incendiary rage it's a white hot rage that gets generated from the media when it's a Labor government doing something for people. And yet, when it's a Liberal government lining their pockets, stealing money hand over fist from the Australian electorate, those kind of lies, that's fine. That's just the cost of doing business.
That's just because we expected from them.
It's because we expected
we're used
from
to
them.
it. But interesting as well this week, speaking of Scott Morrison and the former coalition, there was an announcement this week on Scott Morrison's social media where he has decided to quit politics.
You mean he hadn't done that already?
February. No, Tom, he was staying on. He'd gone to the backbench and was quite happy to represent the people of his electorate until, of course, a decent private sector job came along, and
until the 18-month waiting period was elapsed, and now he can take a job doing something AUKUS for a couple $1 million a year.
Oh yeah. Getting a job in the involved in the very decision you were involved with. Oh yeah, great.
Yeah,
is that what he's actually? He just said in his post a private or the corporate sector, which. Yeah. I mean, I was assuming it would be like a consulting gig,
PwC.
But what did he say? Whether it would what the job was?
I thought I thought something about consulting to do with defense and based in the States, at least in whatever company's consulting for. I'll have to double check.
Wasn't that a broken promise? Is that a broken promise to not go and consult for the exact fucking corrupt thing that you set up? Was that a broken promise? Where's the outrage there, Lisa? Fuck's sakes.
He says that he's looking forward to spending more time with his church as well, which will be nice for him. And I guess having some holidays in Hawaii and other bits and pieces. He can spend more time with his family.
Yeah, you can go do that now, Scott, and we won't give you shit for it.
You can learn the actual words and the chords to April Sun in Cuba before you play it on national television again. That'd be good if you actually learn the song that you...
So there will be a by-election in the Sydney seat of Cook. It's notionally a very safe Liberal seat, but it'll be interesting. So I guess everyone will look at this very closely because we're probably 12 months away from a national election. So
we're only it'll be what 2 years in May since the Albanese government won. So
time flies when you're having no fun at all.
And everyone's sort of chipped in, and Tony Abbott's written a nice little press release for his mate Scott.
Fuck off.
They posted that to X.
Can't these people just fucking fuck off? Just get out of the national, get off my fucking television. Just fuck off, Tony. No one wants to hear from you, you fucking dipshit. Get the fuck out of here, Scott. Get the fuck out of here, Tony. Get the fuck out of here, John Howard. Stop wheeling these fucking corpses out. Okay, like Hannibal Lecter to give their fucking opinion on every dumb piece of shit thing that happens. Just fuck off. Go and go and have a sit somewhere, nice and white, and just fuck off out of the discourse.
I don't want to, George, because they want to have their cake and eat it too. It's part of the 12-point plan. You take write your nice op-ed and snipe from the sidelines. That's your
bye. Go and rest. Watch the sunrise on a grateful nation. All right.
And just without too many prime ministers over the last bloody 20 years.
Just make yourself scarce. Just fuckity bye. Go and have a sit and do anything else. Just go away.
It's just this interesting sentence from Tony Abbott's press release. He says, in my time as PM, Scott was the ministerial architect of Operation Sovereign Borders, the unified national command structure that, along with sending back to Java in unsinkable life rafts the would-be illegal immigrants who'd scuttled their boats, was the key to ending this dreadful scourge.
Hey, ChatGPT, write me a eulogy for Scott Morrison.
Oh my God, that sentence.
Rhodes Scholar, Tony Abbott.
Oh, that fucking hell.
Not a great sentence, but absolutely no, shall we say, what am I trying to say? Subtlety to what he's trying to say there, or any sort of understanding of empathy or anything else. Just, the illegal immigrants who'd scuttled their own boats. Anyway, that happened. Goodbye, Scott. It's not been nice knowing you.
What about not secretly fucking taking over 5 different ministries?
Yeah.
Was that a broken promise?
Yeah, fucking half the Morrison cabinet resigned.
Think about how impoverished we are that 6 former ministers have all resigned at the same time. I mean, that's an absolutely devastating... Scott Morrison, ScoMo, Scott Morrison, Scotty, and Scotty from marketing. All 6 of them resigned at the same time. Six former ministers.
I didn't understand the joke, but my question still helps set up the joke, so good. I'm happy with that.
And that's Adam. It's Adam not understanding the joke, George sweeping in for the punchline, and then the shaking hands gif.
So, goodbye, Scott. Fuck off.
Fuck off. Fuckity bye. See you, cunt.
Interesting story that came through today, again from the ABC. You have the breathless reporting of did he lie, and then lots of positive stories about renewable energy generation. So, the media landscape is a complex one.
Swings and roundabouts.
So interesting that basically rapid growth in renewable energy generation has slashed the wholesale cost of power in the national energy grid late last year and dramatically reduced the reliance on coal-fired power. So prices more than halved in the final 3 months of 2023 compared to the same period in 2022. Basically because of rooftop solar is the main thing. Now, weird thing is that this has happened, I don't know how, but it was probably on a year or two ago where people were freaking the fuck out about bulk wholesale power prices. Everyone's like, oh, the system's broken.
And
the
Ukraine war really prompted a bunch of hand-wringing over it.
Everyone freaked out. And then we're like 12 months away and it's like, yeah, it's fine. Like prices coming down. Don't worry about it.
It's so funny that I'm pretty sure I said on the show multiple times, it's like, yeah, if you add additional supply to the grid, like inevitably prices will fall. Like I've got a pretty basic understanding of markets and market theory. I'm not an economist, but like it seems as though if you have a bunch more energy that gets generated, then the cost of that energy is going to go down for people. Like it seems pretty straightforward. Yeah. And like Barnaby Joyce is like, no, it's not what they're talking about at the IGA. It's modular nuclear reactors. That's what we need. It's like, no, the technology's there in solar. We just need to put it on people's fucking roofs. Like that's all we need to do.
You just need to let people do it.
Yeah.
So demand varied up and down the coast. Wholesale prices were actually higher in Queensland and New South Wales, but in South Australia and Victoria, they dropped. South Australia actually had a period where the whole thing was powered by rooftop solar.
Amazing.
And that's down to an unusually sort of warmer spring and summer in some parts of Australia. Obviously here in Melbourne, we've kind of missed some of that. But yeah, that also, the national energy market doesn't include Western Australia and the Northern Territory because they want to secede and float off into the sea.
Good luck to them.
Good luck to them. But yeah, so just interesting. I thought it was a nice news story. Things are getting better in terms of like, Australia's energy mix. Obviously, it's weather dependent, but, it's I guess, a positive thing that we can keep going in that direction. And it's not all sort of liberal propaganda, as it were.
It's good. However, if you listen to people like Saul Griffith, they will talk about the level of investment that is required to improve the transmission infrastructure. Like this is a very different setup to how the electricity grid was initially designed, right? The initial design was we have a coal-fired power plant over here and it sends the electricity one way to the houses over here and we scale it up and scale it down depending on just-in-time demand, right?
Yeah.
Solar is very different. It's like every single house in the suburb now is a potential generator, which is feeding back into the grid, and that power needs to be dealt with because we don't have appropriate storage set up. It's like, well, we're feeding it back out in all different directions, at the same time, which is very complicated, in terms of where that power is distributed. And you don't have the same kind of feedback mechanisms like you do with a coal-fired power plant of just like, okay, we're just going to turn it down by 10% in order to match the demand.
Yeah.
It's just like rooftop solar could be potentially flooding the system, as you say. And then when you desperately need it when, the sun's not out, then you need to have something else to replace it. So that's why people talk a lot about base load power. What is it? What is that thing that keeps it? Is it storage? Is it nuclear? Is it gas? What do we have that we can scale up and down for when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing? So there's a lot of investment that still needs to happen there, and in terms of improving the grid and transformers and all that sort of stuff to accommodate this new landscape. But it is like undeniably a good thing that way more renewable electricity is entering the grid. Like I think if you told us 10 years ago that we'd be in this position now where entire states for specific periods of time over the summer would be
a couple of hours, but it was still a first.
But there's and it's only gonna increase. There's only going to be more solar. There's only going to be more batteries. There's only going to be like the technology is there. It's cheap and getting cheaper. Like it's only going to be more from this point on. If you had have told me 10 years ago that even for a moment, entire states would be powered solely on renewable energy, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have just said we were arguing about the carbon tax and Tony Abbott was repealing it. That's what was happening 10 years ago right now. You know what I mean? Like it is a different world and it's largely technology. It's sad to say, like a lot of this is not governmental, in terms of things that they've instituted via economic policy or subsidies or things like that. Like a lot of it has just been
the technology's gotten better. Means
of production, right? Not production scale. Is that rooftop solar And the manufacturer doing those things at scale has made those things so much cheaper, to the extent that Australians aren't even looking at it from like a like let's save the planet standpoint. They're just going, hey, I can cut down my power bills in half by putting a 5 or 10 grand solar panel up on the roof. Like, that's going to pay itself off in a couple of years. Like, why wouldn't I do that? And I'll just get free electricity forever. Like, it's become an economic calculation. People go, oh, this just makes sense.
Yeah. That was motivation for my parents doing it. They were like, oh yeah, this is cheaper, so we'll do it.
But that's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
good,
but it's
good
technology. It's not government that's making that happen. It's just like economies of scale that's making that happen.
There's tax things that also help, but a large part of it is that's the market doing its thing, I guess. Now, other news that came out this week was some updates regarding the Optus failure of a couple of months ago, which sort of grounded their network. And what have they admitted, Tom? What's the byline of this?
Well, so you might remember that, as well as when they were doing an inquiry and the CEO of Optus was fronting, the Senate committee or something like that to explain the fiasco that was their most recent outage. Actually, I don't know if it's the most recent, but the most prominent was that on top of businesses like not being able to, do FPOS stuff or like various things that they need their network for. There was also the issue that a lot of people could not even call 000, the emergency number. And they said something like, 200 and something people were unable to make 000 calls. And that was unfortunate. And that maybe we needed to look into, as part of that inquiry, look at how that whole system works, because things should be piggybacking off each other. And something went wrong there, but whoops, our bad. What's come out this week is that Optus has now disclosed that about 10 times as many people were unable to call 000 back then. So it's 2,700 people were the ones that tried to fail and call emergency numbers during that period. So whoopsies.
So it was the purge.
If the purge was just, oh dear, someone's flatlining and I can't get an ambulance, I haven't seen the movie.
No,
So that could
neither
be
have I.
There's a TV show as well, guys. The Purge Purge is its own economic brand at this point.
Yeah, God, the Purge is like the new MCU. So not great. Because back in November, was it the then CEOs? That's right, they've changed since then because of this fiasco ousted them. Said that they did welfare checks on 228 calls that didn't go through to 000, but yes, they have now admitted there was nearly 3,000. I wonder if they did welfare checks on the remaining 2,500 they didn't get to after that.
Yeah, you might have. You might have not gotten an ambulance while you were bleeding out on the kitchen floor, but you did get 200 gigabytes of free data. So
it's true. You get 200 gigs of free data. Use that in the afterlife.
So you can live stream your funeral for free. So that's good.
Yeah, sounds great. Well,
I don't think
stream it for free for only a certain period.
I don't think it's been determined that anyone died as a result. We should clarify that. But
as far as we know, maybe there's another 2,700 that we haven't fucking heard from. Who knows?
Can you imagine being like the Optus operator that's like, okay, so James, what we're going to do today, we're going to ring up Karen. Karen tried to call 000 6 months ago. You're going to check if she's still alive. Just ring up Karen. Hi, Karen. It's James from Optus. You're still good? You've answered the phone. So that's a great thing. Are you going to sue us? Can we ask you that as well? No? Okay, great. Tick them off the list. Next one.
Okay, so here we go. No, they part of their statement was that they haven't done a welfare check on the 2,468 extra people they found.
But do we believe fucking anything that they have to say about this at this point?
At this point, it makes you go like, how thorough were your initial assessments? Oh boy. So that ain't great. Oops.
Oopsie poopsie.
Yeah.
Oopsie poopsie. Tom said that for the first time this week in our chat, and I lost my shit in the office.
I wish I could claim that. I did not coin the phrase oopsie poopsie. But
oopsie poopsie.
If I ever meet Gareth Reynolds again, I'll let him know. Because he says that a lot.
I lost my shit. Anyway, and then the office, people were like, what the fuck are you laughing at? You meant to be working. And I was like, there was this thing in our group chat, and then he said something, and then he said oopsie poopsie, and I found that hilarious. So everyone's like,
I guess you had to be there.
right.
Yeah, they're all like, okay, Adam, we're going to have your performance review early. Come into my office.
12
Then you
months
sit
early.
down, they shut the door, and they're like, Adam, that was awesome.
Nailed it, brah. And like, high five.
Yeah, high fives left, right, and center. Oopsie poopsie. Classic.
Oh, so good. Hey, do you want a raise?
Speaking of oopsie poopsie, we finished this week in the United States because everything is not that better there.
The United States, the land of oopsie poopsie.
Yeah, well, say, the
Oopsie
United
poopsie.
States, where else are you going to learn about a crypto pasta?
Oh my god, it's like the two things
The
in my head.
United
It's just like,
States. Like,
the Venn diagram is just out of control. It is-
To be clear, Tom was saying a crypto pastor, as in like the pastor of a church, not crypto pasta like Bitcoin penne. Like,
oh. Yeah,
not Ethereum, not Ethereum spirals. But
I insist that all my my twisty pasta be on the blockchain. The spirally pastas. Blockchain.
So there is a guy in the US who set up an online church. Okay, he's what they call a televangelist. I guess an online televangelist is the natural progression from a previous cable televangelist.
Are we doing this wrong?
I don't know, man.
Like, should we just be fucking crypto online
No.
evangelist pastors? It seems like a more remunerative career than what we're currently doing.
I guess
I would
it is until this happens. So yeah, Adam.
So he's a televangelist, and he had the great idea to start up a crypto scheme, basically. Exchange, yeah. So basically, he decided that, God told him to start a crypto business. And he got it set up. It was called, the cryptocurrency was called Index Coin, spelled INDX coin. And then it would be
thanks, I hate it.
There was a lot of like messaging and marketing, which was like, what you reap, you will sow, like this kind of thing.
Yep.
Light shines in the brightest dark. Index coin will be the candle. Kingdom Exchange will be the hill. And basically, so Index Coin was the crypto, and then there was another third-party exchange service where you could buy and sell this crypto, and how it was all sort of hosted and sorted out. He sort of he got it sort of rated by a crypto hacking third party, and they gave him he said it was like the best thing since sliced bread, but they gave him a 6 out of 10. So it wasn't a 1. So it was a real thing. Like the crypto thing was a real thing.
Hey, C's get degrees, 6 out of 10 is a pass.
As a televangelist, he's putting the message out there and he's getting everyone to invest. God wants us to do this. God wants you to invest, bro.
God wants you to pump and dump.
Yeah, as they had here that he normally preaches from his church prosperity gospel, which just seems to conveniently be an ideology where God thinks financial benefits are his will. That's very convenient. It's super convenient that your religious ideology also is be best at capitalism.
Yeah, God wants you to do well,
Yeah.
But 5 months after the launch, his name was Mr. Regalado. Yeah, Regalado. He posts Regalado. That's probably
Regalado. I barely know her.
He posted another update. And he said, that there was some turbulent times for the project. Turns out that the network had actually been shut down. So the ability to trade and buy and sell the crypto was turned off. But there was still a bunch of sunk money in the system, which was basically
you couldn't cash out from this bank, effectively, which is essentially kind of what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried as well, right?
Literally.
You are stopping people from being able to withdraw their money, which is not good.
Yeah. And then that was allegedly to do with some disagreement with another third party that he was working with to make the whole thing work. Anyway, he then decided, because God told him to do this, was to take $1.3 million of that investor money for himself. And that God told him to do a house remodel with that money.
Yeah. Nice. Sounds to me like God needs to just fucking shut up.
God also told me
to be quiet if he knows what's good for him.
God also told me to get a bunch of sex workers and a bunch of cocaine. God he's been really explicit about it, actually. Like, it's God. You got to do what he says, right? Like,
I'm
just a vessel. I'm just a vessel for the Holy Spirit to come through me.
It's very funny that you bring this up. We've just started watching the pilot of a series called The Righteous Gemstones from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know it.
Like drama about a evangelical megachurch family led by John Goodman and Danny McBride and some others, where one of them is being blackmailed for having a video of him with sex workers and blow all over the place. And all about what was it? Prosperity gospel seems to be exactly their thing.
It's I mean, we could do another podcast on American evangelical and televangelist, and the money that goes around that.
Yeah, the whole wealthy ultra capitalism church is very strange. Like, I'm not a religious person at all, but that's a whole other level where
prosperity gospel is super weird.
Yeah, this isn't about your spirituality or your moral ethics or all those sorts of things that you are preaching. This is a method to make non-taxed wealth.
Yeah. God wants me to have a G6.
God wants me to have private jets and lots of houses and various cars, and to expand our church into smaller towns and squeeze out smaller parishes to basically.
God wants me to snort coke off my mistress. God wants this. Who are you to deny God?
Yeah, God wants our church to be like the Disney Corporation, just sucking everything up.
Well, God also wanted him to be charged with civil fraud charges as of this month. So Colorado Securities Commissioner Tong Chan has filed those against him. And funnily enough, he came out, he posted a video online, was like, the charges are that Caitlin and I have pocketed $1.3 million. Just want to come out and say that those charges are true. So just really weird defense, but I guess some people have analyzed it to sort of say, well, maybe it's actually strategic in that, if he comes out and admits guilt and wrongdoing, that they'll have a lighter sentence potentially. What's interesting as well is that...
and here's an idea, he might just be a fucking idiot.
There's an inner circle that's still sort of, working around this individual, and one of them is this guy called Gary Black, who was Index Coin's, get this, I can't even say it, prophetic officer.
Oh, God, I hate these people.
chief prophesizer. He's
Sounds
a life coach and an entrepreneur. He has no ties to the business side of the company at all. And he was...
I'm just really into the scamming God side of the company.
Yeah, are you saying he is the vibes manager?
Chief vibes officer.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, wouldn't a chief prophetic officer is basically your business's accountant or economist? Aren't they chief prophetic officers? They're all like, this is what'll happen. This is what's going to happen
because they're fortune tellers from a money perspective.
That didn't happen. Oh shit.
Allegedly, he says that he wasn't actually their CPO. That he was just their first investor, and that
it turns out CPO is a made-up title. That's another thing.
Was just spitting off words, as part of his sermons or whatever.
It's like being a code ninja. Doesn't mean anything.
Obviously, they're really nice people. There wasn't anything manipulative happening. Either he had just misheard God, or maybe God just wasn't done with the project yet. There's still more to come.
Okay. So God's got to lean in a little bit closer. I actually don't hear so good out of this ear, God. So if you could just whisper it in the other ear. Maybe I misheard.
It is just convenient that the ear that I don't hear so well in just heard crypto, make lots of cash, remodel house. Okay, good. Yeah. I missed all the other details, but conveniently, the details that would make me rich and have a nice house, I did hear those.
Yeah,
Only in fucking America, man. Only in fucking America would these two things combine to create the palm fist of fucking, I don't know, religious money tech schemes. Like,
anarcho Christian capitalism. Yeah, run amok. Yeah.
Yeah, freedom.
Oh, it's insane. Anyway,
freedom isn't free.
War over.
Enjoy that little tidbit. Take that with you. And look, if you're ever wondering what to do with your life, there are many options.
Oh, okay.
Many options.
I thought you were going to say it literally doesn't matter because crypto pastors are a real thing. So just do whatever makes you happy because none of it fucking matters.
Exactly.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web at unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that are ruining the world that have, do, or ever will exist at our handle at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Motherflip and TikTok. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and subscribe because we do get full videos of the show where you get to see our beautiful faces and our not beautiful faces talk about the shows in YouTube videos as well. So make sure you watch those videos on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow me down to the Republican primary race where I will run for one election cycle, and then I will retire from that, become a evangelical pastor, and then we'll also launch my own crypto business because this is now my life's mission, and God has told me to do it.
God told you, so.
Yeah.
Great. Seems like God puts his faith in a lot of charlatans and shitheads, though, which is
no. It just misheard him, man. It's like God is speaking the truth. People just interpret it, in weird
you gotta speak
ways,
up. Speak up, God.
You gotta speak up.
Can't hear. Thanks for listening, guys. I love your faces. We'll see you next week.